Hello. Well, thank you for your message. You don't give your name, but the message that you sent me is very personal and touching, and I really do appreciate it more than you might know. Sometimes the spark that leads me to do the things like making videos and sharing, especially LylesBrother videos, is is it needs a little help sometimes because it's difficult sometimes sharing personal stuff and ideas like that. And for the most part, I kind of go with the spur of the moment, but sometimes that moment passes without actually hitting the record button. If I suspicious that it just doesn't really matter, and it's really it means a lot to me to get a message from somebody who says thanks, and they can sometimes the words or the thoughts that I'm sharing resonate in their mind. It's a minority. I shouldn't say a minority, but it is a minority. I mean, the kind of stuff that I talk about on LylesBrother channel, I think is the type of thing that a lot or most people think about at certain points in their life, but it's not the thing that's foremost on their mind through most of their life. I think many of us settle into, including myself, something of a comfortable routine in life, and that routine is realized sometimes after the decade of the 20s or near the end of the decade of the 20s, after the experimental period that goes on. I think there's a lot of biological elements involved in that. We experiment in our teens and 20s, and we settle on something, and we really go from there. So it may be that it's a period of time, or maybe it's something or simply something that's driven by circumstance. Maybe, for example, in my own case, when I was younger, I thought about these things, and then I kind of gave up thinking about them in my 30s. And then I, had the experience of, colossal failure. I mean, not terrible like some people know, like death or dying or things like that. Mine was all financial and the welfare of my family, bringing everything down. And I've talked about that before. That brought the thoughts back, having your ego and your sense of accomplishment and your sense of life achievement, life's work, toppled down to the ground, can leave you, asking questions again. I think that's why people become, I want to say introspective, but it's more extrospective. Can you say that? Is that a word? Everything spective? in times of crisis? So your message helps me because it reminds me that even if there's not a lot of people that are interested, there's some, and maybe will resonate. And I'm glad if the words that I share are helpful to others. Please know that what you share in comments and in video responses and in email does the same to me. It's a two-way street, such as the email that you sent me. Thank you. Now some questions you have for me. I know you don't like to give advice. Well, first of all, the reason I don't like to give advice is for two things. One, I don't think people really listen that much. When not the practical to the stuff that's not practical. If I can give practical advice, people listen to that. Like, what kind of boots to wear when hiking or something like that, or what kind of socks. Like someone asked me recently, what kind of socks will keep leeches from biting? And I use a smart wool. Smart wool, they can't seem to bite through smart wool versus regular cloth socks. People listen to that kind of stuff. But the other stuff, I had a occurrence last month. A friend of mine on Facebook, a long time friend, nearly lifelong friend, solicited on Facebook some input regarding a lot of life change that he was going through, and I offered, having the question pro-offered to the Facebook community, his family and friends. and that he's very close to me, and that's what I care about. I dared to share a suggestion, and though he didn't say so, I gained the impression that it would have been better just to get my mouth shut, because really sometimes I think people, when they're in a state of questioning, what they really want is reinforcement for what they think already, or what they want to be convinced of, and sometimes no argument to the counter will really sway them any in a more persuasive way than simply letting them experience the outcome of that choice. If there are people that can really listen and heed the suggestions of those who've gone before them, then they are a very incredible human being indeed. I'm certainly not up to that task. A true minority. I think it's been said over and over by philosophers of every kind that we can't learn from the mistakes of others. We really have to do it ourselves. So that's why I don't like to give advice too much, because I think it's kind of almost a waste of time sometimes. I like to share. What I do instead is I share anecdotes and examples from my own life, and it's then couched. Those who are able to discern advice from that, from an story, may do so. I think people are more readily willing to do that, to hear a story. Maybe that's why fables and things like that were used as a mechanism of sharing wisdom in the past. Having a moral to a tale and couching that moral in a tale, rather than having a teacher simply tell the moral, having a teacher proffer just give the moral out, that rings on dead ears, whereas couch it in an attractive story, and then it doesn't sound like it was preached at you. Maybe that's the trick. So that's what I try to do. So your question though, and I think this is the kind I can answer directly. You said, but perhaps I will strike it lucky and catch you on a particularly magnanimous day. I try to be magnanimous. I don't think it's magnanimity on my part. I'm happy to share whenever I have the time and the energy and the ability, which is happily in more ready supply lately. I'm healthier these days, and I'm up to the task now of being more interactive and social and the like. So I hope that you feel free. Anybody feels free to share with me questions anytime. But the question is, when you were traveling in your 20s. How did you ward off wild threats like snakes, spiders, foxes, bears, etc.? And how did you find an income if you were filthy from having slept in the wild? Let me answer all three of those. How did I ward off threats? I never thought about threats. I had a tent. When I was hitchhiking and when I was camping alone and traveling, I always had a tent. If I slept outdoors, I had a sleeping bag that cinched up around my neck. Because there really was a case where snakes in particular, rattlesnakes and sidewinders and things like that would get in sleeping bags and boots and the like. And I never had too much trouble with spiders. Scorpions were an issue in the desert, as well as salpugids, tailless whip scorpions and things like that. Not that they'd really kill you or anything like that, but they could cause mischief. Rattlesnakes were a definite problem. I remember having several close encounters with rattlesnakes, more from hiking and not putting my hand in places that were dangerous. I have to just tell you, I never prepared. I was just lucky. I didn't carry a snake bite kit. I cinched up my thing at night. I zippered my thing shut. I checked my boots when I got up in the morning, and that's about it. I never really thought about it. I'm notoriously lacking in preparedness and a forethought ahead of adventure. People write to me and they tell me I want to do this adventure, but I'm afraid of doing all these things, and it's I'm afraid of this, that, and the other thing, and it's an alien concept to me. Because I don't think about those things. I see, here it is, how much food will I need for a couple of days, how much water, or what kind of thing will I get, and even if I can't have that, I just go. And it always seems to work out. You have to be careful in the deep wilderness. It's like the old trackers used to say, the old the old Gold 49ers used to say, if the desert is willing, it will provide the water. You can get yourself killed that way. But I guess I was willing. I never really thought about it. I never always have terrible gear. The backpack that I use is just off the shelf thing. The boots I have are cheap. They're okay, but they're not super expensive, and that's about it. My knife isn't even my hiking knife isn't even a hiking knife. It's a trawl for digging holes. So I never thought about it, and I just got lucky. And I did remember one time I did drop an axe on my finger in the Minnesota boundary waters. I was about a week out, week canoeing. They're not that far. I was probably 3 days canoeing from civilization, pretty deep in the boundary waters. I mean, literally, you have to canoe for 3 days to get back to the portage at, what was that place called? Near Ely. What was that place called? I can't remember the portage, the embarkation point. 3 days out, and I dropped this big axe right on my finger. Bam! In fact, I've still got the scar. It doesn't show up. I forget which hand it is. I can't even see it. It doesn't seem to have gone. And it was terrible, right down to the bone. You could lift it out and see the bone in there. I didn't have any first aid kit, nothing. So I just took a sock, even a dirty sock, just wrapped it up, and put some tape around it, black electrical tape, and there I was. And for the rest of the trip, just like that. I mean, definitely could have been infected and gone bad. So I'm a terrible model. I'm not a good person to ask these questions to, because I've just been lucky, and I'm a fool because I don't really prepare. So I'm sorry. I wish I could give you a better tip on that one. How about the other part? How did you find an income? I saved money. I always saved money in my adventures before I left out. I never got to the point where I ran out. But what I did do is I would have I would have to really budget my money. I remember one summer I was hitchhiking around the United States, and I lived on $20 a week. I did get a job during that time. I did. I wasn't looking for a job, but I was offered a job, and I did make a little bit of money, which I needed. I definitely needed. By the end of the trip, I ran out of money and I ran out of food in Idaho. I lived in Southern California. I was out of money. I didn't have anything. I didn't have any food, nothing, and I had to hitchhike from Idaho. I don't remember. It took a while. I got pretty lucky. I did it pretty fast. I had to hitchhike from Idaho back to Southern California, and fast the whole way. Just have water that I could get from friends along the way. So my adventures, the length of my ventures were determined by the amount of money that I had. I never planned how long it would be necessarily, except it had to be within the confines of the summer because I was a student and I had to do it while I was in school. The question there, if you were filthy from having slept in the wild, that wasn't filthy. Most of my adventures are in the warm months, and I bathe in the streams and rivers everywhere. I still do that. Although now I don't use soap. I'll just wash off. Back then I wasn't as thoughtful about the environment, and I carried a bar of soap, and I would just hop in the river and I bathed regularly. I take 2 or 3 showers a day. I'm a very neat and tidy guy when it comes to that, and maybe that's why I didn't get the infection in my finger. Maybe that was because of that. But I was never filthy. My clothes were ragged and shabby. I think that the one thing that I did, I was having so much fun. I was so damn happy all the time that the smile from ear to ear burned through any strange appearance that I had, and I was also young, and that was on my favor as well. So people picked me up nonetheless, and also the creative methods I came up with to hitch a ride. Like I take a piece of dowel, and one summer I cut a hand with a thumb out of plywood, and I attached it to the dowel. And I could run it through the backpack, and it would stick out the side with the thumb out the side. Big red hand with a thumb there, and people pulled over all the time. They loved that. They thought they would give me rides. Another was the summer I went hitchhiking with a surfboard. I don't know what it was, but something about the surf. I was hitchhiking like in the middle of Oregon, in the desert in Oregon, with a surfboard. Something about that was disarming. I mean, people like, what's this guy, this young guy with a backpack and a surfboard in the desert? What's this? I'm going to give him a ride. It worked. So people never did that. But I did have problems with people sometimes. Bad men, bad women, mostly men, picking me up and threatening me, even threatening my life. One guy tried to kidnap me. He did kidnap me. I managed to escape. Bolted. he wouldn't stop the car, but he had to stop it at this one point, and I bolted, and as I ran down the road, he's like, I won't hurt you, like heck he would. And I saw where he was taking me. I knew that it was scary. Those guys are out there. They're very real. You can die hitchhiking. You can die in the wilderness. You can die, and that's part of the deal too. I've always been willing to do that. I don't want to do it. I don't have a death wish, but I'd rather, as Thoreau said, I'd rather when I come to the end of my years to discover that I had to live in such a way that I discover that I had not lived at all. I'm paraphrasing poorly. Read Walden, if you haven't already. Do I have an autobiography? No, I don't. I have this. This is a book called that I wrote years and years ago. It's called In Agreement with the Sunrise. Notes of an Optimist, and it's an illustrated book of poems and writings and stuff like that. You can see, is that upside down? It's upside down. And it's all these pages of illustrations and poems and stuff. See how I have that up there. It's on my all of this stuff. I did poor job on the camera action. All of this stuff is up. This whole book is up on my channel, Life Has No Meaning channel. It's not included in any of my links. I've got to add that. I'll do that after this. I need to go add those links to these channels. But the Life Has No Meaning channel, one of my many channels, has all of these on there, and I read them and talk about them and share about them. These were done when in my youth. I was in my 20s. The art is so, and but it's very optimistic, upbeat, expressing my my incredible never-ending amazement and wonder at the fact of being alive. That's about the closest that I have. I have another book that I wrote called, I have a story, almost a small book called No More Looking Out for Number One. That's somewhere online too. It's a story of how my life changed. How I basically got over living for myself. In hindsight, it took some years after that, and I'm still working on it. But those are the two things. Do you plan on writing one? Please consider it. Thank you. Maybe I will. I feel like a book would have more of a chance of being written. Thank by LylesBrother videos had more views. Yeah. I see what you mean. If people were viewing it more. Really, what I need to do is just sit down and do something. Autobiography, huh? Honestly, that's something I've never thought about doing. An autobiography. What an interesting concept. It's the kind of thing that it sounds kind of pretentious and egocentric to think about writing your own biography or memoirs or something like that. But since you brought it up, maybe it's something I should actually consider doing. My problem is though I enjoy writing, I don't have a lot of patience for it. But I should do it. Thank you for your suggestion. Appreciate that. What else? Thank you for your kind words about the video, No Escape from the Pain of Living. You make me want to open up still more and share. I think as human beings we share so much commonality. It's far greater than the whatever might be different between us. Although we all live our lives putting on a good front that we are something standard and something unperturbed by the incidents of life and the challenges and the pain and the failure and the loss and the shortcomings that we all have. I don't know why we do that. Maybe it's because of a sense of competition, a sense of success, of wanting to have success. I'm sure it has something to do with biology. There must be some biological imperative in survival of course, right? The successful animals, those that appear successful to the potential mates, are the ones that will succeed reproductively. Why doesn't that make sense that we would all try to pretend that we're all the most successful creatures around? And it's even though our big brains have maybe gotten to the point that we know otherwise, we don't need that anymore. It might still be something coded within us. Maybe we'll get past that, and I can say that I have hurt greatly. I've gotten over it. I'm sure I'll hurt some more in the future. I've also known a lot of happiness as well, and I've got to get over that, and maybe I'll know some more in the future as well. I'm not saying, things. It's just this whole thing. I've got a here in this stack somewhere. I've got an image that I wrote of the sea and the raft on the sea, and riding up to the top of the water raft, and the sunlight is there, and the big trough down there. If you've been on a boat knows what it's like to go down and then up. It's an old story. It would be nice. You encourage me to tell more about the dark abyss parts than the light, because that tends to be where my focus is. I think I'll wrap it up. Thank you, friend, for your email. You really touched me, and you've given me a lot to think about. I really appreciate it. Take care. Write anytime, and everybody else who sees this. I'm always happy to receive messages. As time and personal capability permit. It's the delight of my life. Whatever time we all have. We've gone 100 years. We have each other now. We have some time together. See ya.